Hello, everybody, and welcome back to episode 5 of The Peel, the production podcast behind-the-scenes look at Team 5 and all things Citrus Clips. Last time you joined us was 2 months ago, where we talked about music with our very talented musicians, Solo and Paul Wiest. And today we're going on kind of a related tangent. Today we're going to be covering everything having to do with audio. We're going to talk mixing, we're going to talk sound effects, we're going to talk Foley, and we're going to have a ton of fun doing it. As always, I am your host, Spood, and joining me today
is Kilbral. Hello. Yes, I'm actually very excited to talk about sound, as I had a lot of fun talking about music last time, and I think sound design, making effects, like balancing music and voice lines is really key, important, and there's a lot that goes into it that's not like quite so transparent, I feel like. And there's a lot of cool things, but before we get in too deep, I like to introduce who we're talking to. We've got Doodled. He's been with us for quite some time. If you want to say hello there, Doodled.
It's me, Doodled.
And we also have Juan.
Yup, that's me. I'm Juan.
He certainly is. And
I'm here!
He's here!
Sorry, I can't get as excited. I am looking forward to this.
Yeah, and Juan's a little newer onto the production team, but first off, I want to ask, what do you guys do? Do you guys work in the field of audio, or how long have you been doing that? Let's start with Doodled.
I've been doing audio work. Well, I've been doing audio in general on and off for about 2 decades. Ever since I was really little, I was super into just video editing, audio editing, trying and failing to make music. Actually doing it for work, for the Munsies, was a more recent development in life, but yeah, it's been it's been something I've been doing a long time. First learned about it at a summer camp back in elementary, middle school. It was a long time ago.
Nice. And I was gonna say, actually, you have made one of the sound pieces in Team 5. Your song is currently in Chapter 3.
Oh yeah.
There's a little bit of diegetic music, yeah.
Yeah.
It's more of a cover than a... But you'll hear it when you hear it.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into spoiler stuff after the 15-minute mark like usual.
Okay.
Yeah. Juan, what about you? How long have you been working with audio, and what got you kind of into it?
Ooh, that's a good question. I'll start with what got me into it. So when I was younger, my dad had these little tape recorders, like mini cassette recorders. And I would always mess with them. I just thought it was the coolest thing to be able to, just record your voice and play it back. I was I was 4 or 5. So I thought this was revolutionary. And I don't know, I just always I love the more technical side to things. Audio included, but just in general. And I don't know, I'd do teardown and setup in high school for concerts and stuff. And I think that's where it started. And then I volunteered at my church in Tracy. So volunteered as the sort of the front of house engineer. And then eventually got a job at my church now, and now I'm going to school or recording. So yeah, been doing it. I'd say to where I'm at now, this sort of thing, 3-4 years.
Something like that, because I've probably known you for about 3-4 years now.
Yeah, since 21.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
3 years.
Yeah, about 3 years now. Wow, time flies.
Sir.
Right, and out of curiosity, how were both of you introduced to Team 5? When did you first hear about this silly little project, and why was it my fault that you joined us?
I mean,
who's answering first? Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, in my case, I think it actually was just directly you, just going, "Hey, by the way, I hear you doing some voice stuff, some audio stuff. We have a Pokemon thing. I heard you're into Pokemon. Would you like to, I think that's how that went. I don't know. It's been a bit."
I could definitely see that having been the case.
you were kind of given a proverbial ice bath. You were kind of thrown in with like, hey, here's like 1 million jobs. Can you just do all of it? Can you be like
That's so true.
10 different characters and the audio guy, please? Thanks. And you rose to the occasion, didn't you?
Oh yeah.
More, kind of stood out of my seat for the occasion. I don't know if Rose might be a bit of a dramatic retelling of the situation, but
That's funny.
What about you, Juan?
Great question. Again.
I'm full of them.
Yeah. Andrew Cabral approached me.
Yeah.
You talked about it for a while,
I did.
and I didn't really care about it. care about it in the sense like, oh, that's like it sounded cool. I don't know. I grew up watching some Pokemon on TV, and I played a few of the games. I was like, it sounds cool, but I don't know. Pokemon wasn't, in a sense, I outgrew it. But then you approached me. I think you first mentioned it to me not too long ago. March, maybe,
Something like that.
is when you mentioned it about wanting me to join. And then I think we met up a couple of months after that,
Yeah.
like in May.
Something like that.
Yeah, to do the dialogue editing and just do all the editing after it had been synced up. And yeah, and at that point I had just finished school too, and I took a class the semester before in audio for video, so it kind of worked out. I
Yeah.
got some experience with working with Pro Tools and for film. So I was like, I could probably handle that. And it's to be interesting, too. He showed me chapter 1, at least.
Yeah. I think we've
I
watched
was
a
like,
couple other
this-
episodes at this point now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, at this point, yeah. So that's it.
Yeah.
I felt like I was being recruited for Justice League or something.
I mean, Cabral has a real way of getting people involved. He's spread the net very wide at this point. He's got
Yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
much.
Well, he made me
everybody.
dinner, too, so...
That's so true. I did cook dinner for Juan.
That's very classy. What'd you make?
I made chili that night, and
Ooh.
what else did
Chili,
I have? It was
yeah.
chili and what? Papas? Yeah, it's papas. Like potatoes.
Yes. Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
tasteful.
It was...
you a spice lord or
Papas.
more of a mild guy?
I just did what Jill's recipe book said to do. I don't mind spice. I like spice, but I think there's a little more on the milder side with using only green peppers and chili powder. So very mild.
yeah.
Doubling
Yeah,
down on
that
this
chili
tangent,
wasn't-
actually, if you don't mind, Doodle, do you
Yeah.
have beans in your chili?
Oh.
I haven't had chili ever.
Huh.
Oh.
Huh.
I know what
That's
I'm doing next
not
time I
the
go over.
anticipated answer. Okay. We'll leave that
Anyways.
where it lies.
Yeah, I can't handle any amount of anything even kind of spice related.
So pepper.
It's good to know.
That actually makes me think. Have either of you worked on projects like this before? Like, have you done something sort of this big in this sort of scope?
We'll start with Doodle.
The scope? No.
Yeah.
I've definitely done a lot of similar projects, but I don't think any of the scope of Team 5, no.
Yeah, same. This is definitely the most organized and fleshed out project I've worked on. I've done things for like student projects, but yeah, to this degree now.
Definitely to this degree of seeing it through.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because I actually have done work on projects of a similar scope, but definitely not. They have not lasted nearly as long as like the actual efforts behind Team 5 have. Like,
Yeah.
they usually don't make it out of pre-production. So the fact that we were actually making a lot of headway is a pretty good sign, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, we've gotten quite deep into it. At the time of us recording this, we're a little over 69% done.
Nice.
Nice. We are approaching 70, which, all the big benchmarks is like, okay, every 10% is like a big whew. We passed 2/3, a couple months ago, and it's been good. We're really right on the cusp of finishing a lot of things all at once. You know, chapters 3 and 4 are like right next to being done. You know, chapter 2 has been teetering on the edge of being complete for a long time. Chapter 1 is effectively done. It has been for a long time. So, you know, we're really knocking through these, and audio has moved up, in theory, into chapter 5. But right now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Doodle, right now you're touching up chapter 2?
Yes.
Okay. Doodle, you're going back in and touching up chapter 2, and Juan, you're working in chapter 4.
Yep. This is so.
And we did it this way, and correct me if I'm wrong, I guess this is me kind of putting out the feeler. We have 2 different people now working the show, and we don't necessarily want them to pass scenes back and forth, because you might be able to tell just based on different approaches to audio editing, like, okay, well, this sounds different now, like going from scene 1 to scene 2 if Doodle did it versus if Juan did it. So we're splitting it up by entire episodes. Do you find, you know, if you have this kind of experience with it, do you find that 2 different people handed the same, you know, assets with the same instructions come away with 2 different sounding products?
Yeah. I think we can start with Doodle. I feel like we've...
Oh, sure, yeah.
That's how we've been doing it. I got used to it. I don't mind answering first.
But, you know.
Yeah. I'm too scared. No, I have an answer, but Doodle, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd say so. They can definitely come up with some pretty different sounding. I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be the same content, so it's not going to sound too different to especially to non-discerning ears. But there will be some noticeable mixing and mastering differences. Although, granted, at the end of the day, when it's going to the same platforms, it's gonna get remastered the same as it goes through, you know, the internet tubes and algorithms. It's gonna, you know, even itself out at the end. So it's not gonna sound all that different, in all honesty. But definitely some personal touches, some decisions, some. If we use presets based on our programs of choice, you know, some of those might turn into almost signature sort of, not sounds, but signature layers and filters on the sounds themselves. So, but generally speaking, it's enough of a difference where doing it per scene, I think, I agree, is maybe not the best idea if you're switching it back and forth. Even for the same person, I think having it in 2 different project files might not be a great idea. But entire separate episodes that they don't really get them back to back like that, they have to actually click on the next one, etc. I feel like that's enough of a gap where it becomes indistinguishable at that point.
Yep. Yeah, definitely having it staggered where you're not working on, like, I'm not working on an episode before or after necessarily, and I think that'll help with the discernment. And you're right that most people, the general public, don't notice those things. I definitely do. So that was definitely a concern at first, because although I don't have much experience with it, the sort of orthodox or standard approach is to split off scene by scene, or just different chunks. But these are shorter episodes. I'm not sure how they do it in animation or for like cartoons on television or streaming platforms, but I would imagine they do a similar thing in film where they don't work on a whole episode. I think that would help with like sort of like setting out goals, like, oh, I only have this scene in this session to do, as opposed to like I have a whole episode, which could, I think, for me, make things, or was making things a little like like the end goal just seems further, so it's like, oh, it's going to take me a little longer, but you know, kind of got used to that, and I actually do prefer it now too, because now my whole episode could seem like fluid. It doesn't seem like 2 people worked on it or whatever.
Yeah, it's more seamless.
Which I think is, yes, more seamless, and especially with, I mean, I would say, you know, we're fairly amateur in terms of the industry, if you will, which is not a bad thing. It just means that, you know, we haven't, at least for me, I haven't, you know, figured out a workflow that works.
Yeah, we haven't established the bones of a lot of the
Yeah.
factors and assets and stuff, because the other part of it too is we don't have like a shared library of like sound effects, right? So the sound effects Doodle might use versus you might slightly differ and vary episode to episode. And if we were to do scene by scene, you could definitely tell. And again, like, you know, it's like you and Doodle said, honestly, most of the public won't notice, but there are people who will. And I also enjoy listening for those things. There's a lot of weight that sound design carries in stories and cartoons and TV shows and movies that's so really like not noticed a lot of times. Because when people talk about like movies and shows, they don't talk about how, oh, did you notice at this part when they use this sound effect for this, or how they emphasize that sound a little more so than usual, or whatever it is. Like, a lot of times the average person will go over their head. So for instance, when you take a sword out of a sheath, does it make a sound in real life, Juan or Doodled? Does it actually make that shling sound? Like when you take that out of its thing?
Definitely not. That'd be pretty cool. I mean, I don't work with swords.
I mean,
but,
it makes. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Sorry.
I have a, yeah, go ahead.
It makes a sound, but definitely not the shing sound, unless the sheath also happens to be like an exact type of metal and it's fit in an exact way, and it's like, nah, it's more like a, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which goes with the idea of what is the approach that we're doing or anybody's doing with sound in their project, right? You know, are we trying to be realistic, or in this case, you know, not necessarily, right? This is a animation, and it's Pokemon, right? It's a little, or it could be out there in the sense.
Yeah,
of
over exaggerated.
necessarily